Alright, this is issue 19 of Gary Gardner. The Armoured adventures continue. This is the second part of this story that debuted is Exoskeleton Armour. It is also Chuck Dickinson's last issue as writer of the series. His run was a mixed bag. He wrote the characters and their dialogue well. We have some of that in this. But the ideas themselves weren't great. One of those is our current drama. On paper, it's pretty good. We have Gary Gardner in his new armour defending his love interest, Ice Maiden, from a villain. That is okay, but our villain happens to be Gary Gardner's long-lost brother in his own suit of super armour. Mace. They are fighting for reasons. I'll do a quick plot recap. There's not much. Gary Gardner came to the Arctic to talk to his on-again, off-again lover, Ice Maiden. That stuff was really good. A writer was treating and approaching their relationship seriously for once. But they were attacked by the armoured bounty hunter, mercenary hotshot, militia, who is Gary Gardner's brother, Mace. Mace has been gunning for his brother for a while. They have battled a couple of times, but Gary Gardner isn't aware that militia is his brother. Meanwhile, Gary Gardner lost his Green Lantern's derived powers as a result of Emmerdale Twilight, the story where the rat bastard version of Green Lanterns went totes evil and murdered all the Green Lanterns and the Smurfs. Gary Gardner had Blue Beetle design him an exoskeleton to cover for his lost powers. I did do a review of part 1 back before my hospital escapades. So if you want to know more about militia or the armour or whatever, go and watch that one. As I said in part 1, and I've already implied readily in this, militia is a bargain bin villain. It is a lame villain, and it being his brother doesn't make it any better. The brother connection feels corny and convenient. It is a way to try and make militia more than he is, and what he is a bargain bin villain. This is mostly a show for Gary Gardner's new setup, his power suit. And that is in part because this book had an identity crisis, and it will keep remaking its title character. The armour doesn't last long, but it is attached to a batch of issues which are probably the strongest written of the series. Militia even seems custom made as a villain to be put against Gary's armour, which might have been the case, although he was introduced back when he still had a Green Lantern's ring. It was Chuck Dickens who created militia and who created Mace. So it is possible he knew the exoskeleton was coming up. At the exact point when I was feeling the need to complain about Ice Maiden being knocked out and left out of the fight, she gets up and starts fighting militia, who Gary keeps calling Melissa. Gary Gardner is a bit like a son of Capwolf in training. The internal monologue here Gary Gardner's thoughts about Ice Maiden, they are pretty low. But that's Gary Gardner. He thinks that Ice Maiden, and keep in mind this is the girl he supposedly loves, he thinks that she is a lightweight with not much power at her disposal, which is obviously wrong, and we're even seeing it as wrong here. But I think to an inattentive reader, they might take Gary Gardner's often wrong thoughts as gospel. Ice Maiden has always had reliable and strong powers. Gary Gardner just thinks little of her because she is a woman. Some more writing of their relationship. Chuck Dickens got it. He got their relationship. They had been paired together in Justice League International as a chalk and cheese sort of couple. He is a loud-mouth, horrible misogynist, and she is a wallflower without much confidence. It did allow Gary Gardner some of his only moments of warmth or even depth. She could soften Gary Gardner, and that was good for him as a character. But it's also a relationship which unfortunately means Ice Maiden has to suffer being with Gary Gardner for the sake of giving Gary Gardner some actual humanity. The issue wants to re-offer me a chance to complain because Ice Maiden is knocked out once more. There is some good writing of Gary Gardner, with him blaming himself for Ice Maiden being hurt. Again, Ice Maiden has to suffer for us to get Gary Gardner to be relatable and nearly likeable. Of course, the appeal of a character like Gary Gardner is that he is an arsehole. He is a jerk. He's not meant to be Superman or Spider-Man. He is a broken toy. But it's little moments like this which make him rewarding. You are looking for that spark of humanity. He would be a lot more boring a prospect if he was always the loud, bumbling jackass with nothing beyond that. We need these bits where we get to see a real person underneath all the bluster and attitude. Ice Maiden always has to suffer for it though. Here we have the big reveal for Gary Gardner. Militia rips off his mask, apparently, not helmet, to show that he is in fact Mace Gardner, Gary Gardner's believed dead brother. There's something about this that doesn't work. Back in an earlier issue, one of Militia's first appearances, at the end, Gary Gardner had defeated him, and his armour was damaged and a bit destroyed. And we and Gary could see at least half his face exposed. Why wouldn't Gary have noticed then that it is his brother? I will honestly say that had to be an art mistake that the editor didn't think on. That his face shouldn't ever have been exposed, or at least not to the degree it was within such proximity to the hero. We have family drama now. Their dad died and Gary never cared, but Gary was abused by their dad, and that is why his reaction to the death of their dad was conflicted. And it is odd to give Gary Gardner new armour and have it so thoroughly trashed in its first fight. I would have assumed this was because we were already prepping for our next reinvention, but he has the armour for a few more issues. We're not getting the daft alien tattoo powers for a few months. Maybe part of it was they were intending to boost his armour with some leftover energy from his magic ring. The ring regains some energy and we have a big explosion, and the armour is mended by his Green Lantern's ring. We then quickly tie up some loose ends with Mace. How Mace became militia, a bit of a backstory dump. But then, after that, we have the arrival of Green Lanterns, the gay all-along one, the original Green Lanterns. He has become aware of what has transpired over in the main Green Lantern's title, the Rat Bastards Rampage. And so now he has come to gather Gary Gardner to join in their investigation into the developments. Next issue, which has a new writer, begins another two-parter which directly explores some fallout from Emmerdale Twilight. It is a shame they went and called these two-part stories one 4-parter. It's nonsensical. In the 90s, it was decided that stories and issues only have worth if they were part of something longer. I think that this, like with part 1, the plot is pretty pants, but the writing around it is for the most part good. Gary Gardner feels like a real character, a real person rather. He doesn't feel like the larger-than-life comic relief joke he is in most the Justice League books. The relationship stuff is earnest, and Ice Maiden is given some agency and some honest-to-God say in the pairing. Militia really blows, but there's one okay bit right at the end where he says Gary Gardner ironically became the hero that he wanted to be. This two-parter, I think, works a lot from its character writing. It's not a story that stands out for anything else. I've got a 7 thumbs up prepared for this issue.